Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whenever you're watching this video. This is the first of what I hope to be many more videos to come. I am doing a video blog, and it's on something that I'm trying to get in the habit of doing more, which is having more of a daily devotional. Um, try to do it before I start my day. So what I have been doing is that I have been reading. I've been reading my Bible, but I also read supplemental books that will help me to understand certain topics in the Bible. And the one book that I wanted to share with everybody today, it is called the Rose Book of Bible Charts, Maps, and Timelines. This particular book to help you understand certain topics in the Bible, and it's been put in my heart to share with everybody else in case you're searching, looking for answers or clarification on certain things in the Bible. So you've come to the right place. I'm not I'm not trying to take away from this book at all. The publishers of this book. I'm actually promoting this book, which means that if you're interested in the content that you get from this video blog about this book, I encourage you to get the book. Um, it's from Rose Publishing. You can go to their website and you can get the book, or you can go to your local Christian store, and they should have it there. If they don't, you can ask them for that. And so the title of that again is called Rose Book of Bible Charts, Maps, and Timelines. And you're going to see in a little while why I like this book so much, because it has reading in there, which is it's good for those who like to read and understand stuff by reading, but it is also really good for those who don't particularly like to read too much. It has a lot of pictures in there, so that you can not only read the information about the different topics, but you can also see the pictures and get a better understanding, a visual understanding of these of what's being talked about. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to get real basic. The Bible itself, the beginnings of it. How is the Bible put together? What's in the Bible as far as the books are concerned? How's it all structured? And I hope that you have a better understanding of it now from this video. And so the the Bible itself, we everybody knows that it's excuse me. Everybody knows it's broken down into two major sections, which is the Old Testament and the New Testament. But it goes a little deeper than just the Old Testament and the New Testament. Well, what is the Old Testament? The Old Testament has it tells a story of the beginning of the world, the beginning of creation. Excuse me. The beginning of creation, and it also tells about the history of the early times of the chosen people, the Jewish people that God has chosen to be His people. Then we have also the New Testament, which is focuses on Jesus Christ. It focuses on His life, His ministry, and what He came to do. It focuses on the new covenant that God wanted to be in a covenant with us, a new covenant, a better covenant, so that we can have a better relationship with God. So that's the Old and New Testament in a nutshell. But now, let's break it down. When you break down the Old Testament, what's in the Old Testament, and that is pretty much uh, it's interesting how it's actually broken down and actually put together. We start with the law. We have the first 5 books in the Old Testament that deal with the law, God's law that He gave to us. It also goes into the history of God's people. Then we also have a set of books that are dedicated to poetry. The poetry of the time from certain people. We also have books from the major prophets. The major prophets, the reason why they're called major prophets is because they have a lot of content in their books. It's followed by the minor prophets in the Old Testament. The reason why that these particular books are considered minor is just because that um, they have a smaller. The books are smaller. They're not. They don't have as much content as the major prophets do in their books. So that's how the Old Testament is set up. Now with the New Testament is set up pretty similar. And so the first four books in the New Testament start off with the Gospels, and that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Then it goes into we have the book of Acts, which is history. From there, we have more books that are the epistles to the churches, and from there we have the epistles to friends, and then we have the last set of books, which are the general epistles, and that's pretty much how the books, or that's how the Bible is actually set up. So what we're going to get into right now is just an overview of what the law books, what are considered the law books of the Bible, which is in the Old Testament. So if you have this book, read along with me. It's on page 7, and we're gonna talk about just a brief overview of each book. Who wrote the book? What the book is? What is contained in the book? What is it about? Um, where where was this book written, or where do the events take place? Also, when this took place. Also going to delve into a little bit of why. Give you outlines of the chapters in each book, and also give you key verses. The first 5 books of the Bible are called the Law, or the Pentateuch, or the Torah. The Law contains stories about the creation of the world, the flood, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the children of Israel in Egypt, the Exodus, and the time the children of Israel spent in the wilderness before entering the promised land. The books of the law also recorded the law that God gave to people on Mount Sinai, which laid down the regulations for sacrifice, worship, and daily living. So, the first book that's in the Bible that starts off is Genesis. Moses wrote this book, and inside this book it describes the beginnings of how the earth was created. Um, how man came about, how creation came about in general. It is there that you're gonna find out that God existed before the creation of the world, and Moses is describing how God created the world. So, where was this? And it was in Egypt and Canaan. When did this happen? It's saying in the book it's about 1450 BC to 1400 BC. Why? It's to demonstrate it's to demonstrate that God is sovereign and loves his creation. So then we go and we break down the chapters, the outline of each of these chapters. So in chapters 1 through 11, it is discussed the creation, the fall of man, and the flood. Through chapters 11 to 25 is where Abraham is discussed. In chapters 25 to 36, we go through the life of Isaac and Jacob. And in chapters 37 to 50, we go into the lives or into the life of Joseph. The key verse in Genesis is, "I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you." That's in Genesis chapter 17, verse 7. Now the next book that's in the law section of the Bible, of the Old Testament, is Exodus. Moses also wrote this book. What it's about is the deliverance from slavery. So the Hebrews, they were put into bondage, and Genesis covers how that happened. So Exodus is about the deliverance from slavery. The Egyptian people had put the Hebrews into slavery. Um, the location of where the stories take place is Egypt and Canaan. When did this happen? This happened between from 1445 BC to 1400 BC. And why is this book so important? It's to show God's faithfulness to the covenant and provide Israel with guidelines for healthy living. So now we're going to go into the outline of this particular book, the chapter outlines of this book. In chapters 1 through 7, it is discussed of the birth of Moses and the early life of Moses. From chapters 7 to 13, this part of the book describes the different plagues. So, Moses had fled Egypt because, he killed an Egyptian, and so he feared for his life. So, he's now being he has talked to God, and God wants him to go back to Egypt to free his people. So the plagues this particular portion of it talks about the plagues where Pharaoh would not let the Hebrew people go, so plagues were brought upon Egypt. From chapters 14 to 18, we have the Exodus, which is finally Pharaoh has let the Hebrew people go because of all the plagues, and he couldn't stand any more plagues. So from chapters 25 to 40, we have the tabernacle and worship. That's where the Hebrew people finally get to leave Egypt, and they go and they worship in the desert. The key verse in Exodus is, God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. And that's in Exodus chapter 13, verse 14. Now, the next book is called Leviticus. Also, Moses again wrote this book, Leviticus. What is this book, Leviticus, about? It's about law and sacrifice. So, Moses wrote this book. God gave Moses the laws, or gave Moses God's laws on how the Hebrew people should live. And so, this book is all about God's laws and instructions on how to sacrifice. When did this happen, or where did this take place? It is Sinai and Canaan. That's where it took place. So when did it take place? It's in between 1455 BC to 1400 BC. Why is this book so important? It's to instruct Israel on how to be a holy and be a blessing to others. Let me say this again. It's to instruct Israel on how to be holy and to be a blessing to others. The chapter outlines for Leviticus, chapters 1 through 7, deal with sacrifice. Chapters 8 through 10, they deal with the priesthood. Chapters 11 to 15 deal with cleanliness and uncleanliness. And chapter 16 deals with the Day of Atonement. Chapters 17 to 27, they deal with laws for daily life. And the key verse for Leviticus is, consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and follow them. I am the Lord who makes you holy. That's Leviticus chapter 20, verse 7 and 8. So the next book that we have is Numbers. Also, Moses wrote the book of Numbers. And what is this book all about? Numbers deals with the census that took place and the history of the Hebrew people at that time. Where did this take place? It took place at the borders of Canaan. And when did it take place? In between 1445 BC and 1400 BC. So why is this book so important? Well, this book is important because it is a reminder of what happens when God's people rebel against God. So this is a good book to look at, when to see how God dealt with his people when they rebelled. So the chapter outlines, from chapters 1 through 9, it deals with the census. So the Lord commanded his people to be counted so that they can get an idea of how many people are actually um, in existence now. From chapters 10 to 12, it is discussed. Um, it is discussed Sinai, or it talks about the journey from Sinai to Canaan, Mount Sinai to Canaan. From chapters 13 to 19, this portion of the book talks about the spies and rebellion. And from chapters 20 to 36, Moab is discussed. The key verse in Numbers is the Lord bless you and keep you. And the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. That's Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. And then the last of the law books is Deuteronomy. This was also written by Moses. What is this book about? Well, it's sermons by Moses. These are the teachings that Moses gave to his people, the Hebrews. Where did this take place? This took place in the plains of Moab. And when did it take place? It took place in between 1401 BC and 1400 BC. So why is this book so important? It's to remind the people what God expects from them. And the chapter outline for this book is from chapters 1 through 4 is Moses' first sermon, which is the journey review. Chapters 5 to 28 is Moses' sermon number 2, which is about the laws. And chapters 29 to 30 is Moses' sermon number 3, and that deals with the covenant. Chapters 31 to 34 are the final farewells. So the key verse in Deuteronomy is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength." That's in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. So that's it for today. That is, we're discussing the 5 books in the Old Testament, which are the law books. And I hope that you enjoyed this, and I do hope to improve on this to be better. So if you have any comments, you have any suggestions or whatever, go ahead and tell me what you think of this first blog. Tell me what you think I could do to make it better. And you can also follow me too. Follow me so that every time that I upload new videos, you will be one of the first people to get them. All right. So for now, I just want to say thank you for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.